Impro Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization and its far-reaching effects. Hey everybody, welcome to Impro Talk. I'm your host, Mike Rock, and I am psyched to welcome Andy Crocker to the show. Andy is one half of the immersive design duo, along with her husband, Jeff, of Mr. and Mischief. They are the creators of the award-winning Escape from Godot, Builder and the Dove at the Skirball Center, Objectivity, which is a virtual self-help satire, and the experiential memoir 40 Watts from Nowhere, which was at the WOW Festival at La Jolla Playhouse and hopefully makes a return, pandemic allowing. Andy previously worked in casting at Center Theater Group. She also worked on television shows like The Conners, Documentary Now, and The Detroiters. Her resume includes creating shows for the heralded Channel 101, improvising on stage with Comedy Sports, and producing the Adult Swim show Kitten vs. Newborn. And her most recent adventure was with Walt Disney Imagineering. We're going to talk about all those things. So please welcome my friend, Andy Crocker. Hey, Andy.
Hi, Mike.
It's so exciting to see you in person. Well, I mean, not in person, but you know what I mean. Live?
As close as we can do at this hot second.
As close as we can make it happen. And you've been doing all right, pandemic notwithstanding. You've been doing stuff.
I've been busy.
Keeping really busy, right? That's good.
Yeah.
When it started, were you in the middle of something and had to adjust, or were you in a transition? I can't remember. Can you remind me?
I know I'm not alone in a story like this, but I was working on a project which is still shrouded in NDA to this very moment. So, and it was like March 13th. We did this thing. The thing went really well. And basically everyone at the thing was like, kid, your life's about to change. This is gonna be a mega hit. Can't wait for this to take over the world. And then the March 14th run was canceled, and then nothing. So I was like in a super optimistic, it was like I took a breath and then I had to hold the breath forever. This does not compare to that, but my version of that, my little microcosm of that, is that I was on a veil for a commercial, and on March 14th, on Saturday, I think March 14th was a Saturday. On that Saturday, we did a callback. We did a third callback or whatever, and masks were being talked about, and like social distancing a little bit was being talked about, just sort of in a perfunctory way. And then like a day went by and 2 days went by, and then suddenly it was like shut everything down. But I see you put in your bio a lot of you describe some things kind of vaguely, and you say that these projects are shrouded in legal mystery or something. Yeah, because there's so many of them that it was just like, all right, can't wait to tell the war. What? Nope, no, we can't. Okay, we're just gonna shut it down and never speak of it again. Cool. And I know that part of working in themed entertainment is like you develop things for like a decade and then maybe they see the light of day. But there were quite a few things that were, I felt like the marble was at the top of the marble maze, and then just the marble was just like put down to the side of the marble maze. And
oh man, the
marble maze is still standing, kind of. It's just that we don't know, and that's part of the nature of the job, but the pandemic made that extra tricky on a couple different projects.
Yeah. Oh man. So can we go back to the beginning real quick? So you, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are a California native.
I am. That is true.
Okay. Whew.
I was born in Northern California.
And when did you find you? So I'm going to make some assumptions here because these are some questions that I find I ask people pretty regularly on this show. But I think I know you well enough to know the answers to some of these. I'm guessing in the house and in the neighborhood, you were kind of the ringleader kid organizing shows and putting on shows.
Ding.
Okay, good.
That's the correct this game we're playing.
You also have a game show history, in a way, kind of, don't you? Or maybe not game show, but TV trivia and.
I mean, I did do a game show once, and I did not go well. The answer was Julia Roberts, just in case you were wondering.
Was it a really?
That was what got me out.
Was it a roundabout way of asking about her?
Oh, wait a second. No, the answer was Mona Lisa Smile, starring Julia Roberts.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the name of it. Anyway,
I would not have gotten that. Thank you very much. So I'll write a letter for you on your behalf. So, and then did you start like auditioning for plays and stuff at a young age? Did you kind of officially go from neighborhoody stuff to actually, putting it into practice?
Yes, it was tableside puppet shows straight to Broadway. No, so it was like, hey mom, look at me, dinner table interruption shows, and then youth theater and school plays. And then in high school was when I started directing, when I realized I wanted to direct.
In high school even, wow.
15. So I've always been a director that performed because there weren't as many opportunities to direct as a young person and to be involved in theater in ways like I wasn't quite a crew kid. I wasn't all the way an actor. I was, don't tell my bosses, probably too lazy to write at the time, but I've wanted to direct since for forever. But there weren't that many opportunities as a young kid. In youth theater, there isn't a directing track.
Yeah. When you say youth theater, do you mean like community theater?
We had like a community youth theater that I did. Shout out to Los Altos Youth Theater. So in addition to school plays, I would do these sort of like multi-school youth.
Oh, that kind of a thing. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was, so if your school didn't have like a drama department, you could go to these. It's like essentially an after-school program that would do a season of theater. I didn't realize that was unusual. I thought that was like
Well, we didn't have that where I grew up. There was community theater, and the organization was called Children's Theater of Madison, and it still is. And then school, like it's I don't, well, you know what, actually I take that back. There might be some carve out in the middle for independently produced things, but there was never anything that I knew.
Did you play an old man like as a child? I think is the thing, is like in youth theater in my mind, like everybody is played by youths.
Yeah, because you do stuff like you do plays like You Can't Take It With You or something, and somebody has to play.
Yeah, like the old age makeup budget at the community theater. Right. That's how you determine
the baby powder in the hair trick. No, you have to get it wet first. I did not. I did plays. I was the kid in the play or in the musical or whatever for University of Wisconsin productions, and weirdly didn't really do. I think I auditioned for children's theater stuff. I did one, I think maybe one or two productions. I did the Nutcracker with the Wisconsin School of Ballet, but I didn't really dance. I was just a disruptive Fritz brother, the brother of Clara. But yeah, it wasn't until high school that I said like, oh, I'm going to officially be auditioned for a play. Because I was just always asked. It was just like, hey, do you want to?
Oh, you were offer only?
Well, my mom. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't audition.
Yeah. Well, they knew.
12 and I'm offer only.
My mom was a producer, director person, and choreographer in town, and her best friend was a director person, and so I ended up like getting roped into things. But for a lot of kids, because since then I've been teaching with the Educational Theater Association for decades, a lot of kids seem to just have this, from starting at age 6, they just know what they want to do, and they're just off and running, and they're just doing shows. I guess it's kind of like, I'm a little jealous of it. It's kind of like a kid athlete who has spring baseball, summer baseball, fall baseball, winter baseball camp. And, by the time they're 20, they're like, oh, I'm so sick of baseball. But as a theater kid, I did not benefit from that.
I was sort of in between. I definitely always loved doing it, but I seem to remember there were also just regular old ship your kid off to summer camps,
sure.
And summer school, and I don't know, I took a yoga class or something. Clearly made an impact.
Did you go to the kinds of summer camps where you tie twine on things and start fires and stuff?
Yeah, except add to that Jewish, hippie, gay.
Oh, did you go to like a Habonim type of thing? Or
I went to Camp Tawanga was what it was. Whereas to this day, I'll hear an old hippie song, like a Grateful Dead song, and I'll be like, oh, I thought that was a summer camp song. Turns out, nope. Just went to a gay Jewish hippie summer camp.
Oh, that's
where awesome. I thought it was totally standard that my counselor's name was Rainbow and had long blue mermaid hair. And
I love it.
I thought she was so old, and she was probably 15.
Yeah, I remember counselors from camp, Boy Scout camp, and also just city park daytime hangout camp, who I remember thinking God, they're such an adult. And then looking back, I'm like, that person was in high school.
How did my parents just leave me with Rainbow and just be like, this is fine. She's going to go into the woods. They're going to sleep on something called couch rock. That was the big exciting thing.
Man. So you have some puppeteering in your blood, in your family's DNA. Is that right?
No, I just love puppets. Okay. I don't have it. I mean, my dad was, I have it's really my dad. My dad was a stand-up and physicist. That's that combo. Laser engineer and physicist. And my mom is like me, a loudmouth, but not theater trained officially. But that's really it. But my dad was big weirdo artist in addition to being a physicist.
Yeah, so it was encouraged, it was accepted, it was
yeah. Oh, that was not, I was really lucky to have, they were incredibly supportive of every show shenanigans that I got into. Actually, I know this isn't technically about improv, but I will say when I was 13, I went, or 12, it was 12 or 13, we had a Jewish youth group trip to see Comedy Sports San Jose.
Wow.
And I got called up on stage for a guessing game as an audience volunteer.
I love it.
And I watched it happen, and I was like, oh, this is pretty. I like this. And then I went home and I told my mom about it. And I was like, Mom, it was amazing. And I think I could do that. I was like, I think I'd be really good at it. And she was like, you should call them and tell them. So I called them and was like, hello, my name is Andy Goldblatt, and I would like to be in Comedy Sports. I think I'd be really good at it. And they called me back and they were like, well, we have, when you're in high school, we have a high school program. And I was like, nah, I think I'm ready. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
You don't need to put me through the school program.
I was like, I'm ready to roll right now. And then
I love that.
And then I did it when I was an adult. I was I would say too encouraging. My mom was like, yeah, you're right. You should call them and you're ready.
Oh, I had I remember I've been in, running different theater companies for long enough to remember when a family came to a show with their 12-year-old son, and he was like, I could do that. And I had him come, and he was a very savvy kid. He's one of those kids, probably like you were. He's one of those kids that grew up with parents who were just so cool that the kid could hang with the adults, like conversationally and etc. And he was like more adept than most of the adult people who were taking our classes at the time and stuff like that. And it did not take long before he was, the youngest kid in the group on stage doing stuff. Now he's a full legitimate adult person.
I really thought you were gonna be like, now he's a criminal.
we hardened him. No, he's a very he's a very on-demand musician, dude. But yeah, like the aptitude, like when you're a little kid and you see something that you love, you're a creative kid and you see something that you love, that passion is half the battle, or maybe more than half the battle, I think.
I mean, it's funny. It's like passion and confidence, and that I feel very lucky. Like, was both of those were, what is that, like kindled? What do you do to a fire?
Fostered, encouraged, stoked.
Yeah. I felt like by both my parents. Yeah. So I feel very, very lucky. Well, there's that whole, the thing about like with athletes, it's like it's talent, but it's also just like time and encouragement and access. And I feel like so privileged to have had access to Los Altos Youth Theater and to school drama programs where they weren't like super fancy competitive. I wasn't like fame. I wasn't like dancing on top of taxis in New York, but I mean, we performed in the cafeteria and that was great. And I was given an opportunity to direct when I was 15. That's given amazing. A chance to explore that, and
original pieces or traditional pieces.
When I was 15, I directed a production of The Lucky Spot by Beth Henley, which is
impressive.
A pretentious child who was very annoying, I can only assume.
Oh my gosh.
And the local paper, someone wrote the local paper about how inappropriate it was and how the subject matter of that the play should be shut down and they should have never let me do it. And then Beth Henley wrote a response.
What?
Yeah. So I have it somewhere. I don't know what. Yeah. So it was like a whole thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't forget about it, but it's not something that comes up a lot. But yeah.
Was there then a follow-up? Was there like a rebuttal to that complaint ever or anything?
It was a very short-lived
controversy.
situation. But I think people were rightly angry and were like, you teach Romeo and Juliet, why wouldn't, like, they're 15 in that, why does this play with a teen pregnancy and domestic abuse? I probably should reread the play. It probably was inappropriate. But my drama teacher, Sarah Maper, she was incredible. She was like, okay, let's do this. And
that's amazing.
Supportive.
It's so great that she wasn't like, you know what, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is available. Probably do that. That's amazing. And then it got written, and then there was controversy. I love that.
In the Los Altos Town Crier, the number
probably
one,
had to hire a publicist and a lawyer.
The number 1/only newspaper in town.
Yeah. When you were in high school, were you what combo were you? You were a theater kid, but were you also musician? Were you also academic? What was your sort of other side? Class council, student body, student civics, or
I transferred high schools halfway through. So my first 2 years, first year I would say I was theater kid / very awkward invisible ghost person. I'm not sure. I don't really remember. That was just eager to get through school to go to after school play practice at the youth theater.
Sure.
that was freshman year. And then sophomore year, I was in this independent learning community called Learning Community, which in retrospect, I learned later, this is like a whole other podcast, was a cult. Like I was in for realsies.
For
a cult.
real?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever talked about this like on a recorded thing, but it was an independent study thing, which means I got credit for directing my high school play as an independent study class, but then also had a bunch of non-transferable credits that the UC system was like, you have credits here for something called cosmic glue. That doesn't count towards your acceptance into college. You're supposed to have PE, but you have something called physical systems and spiritual. Like it was like some nonsense. It was like a whole bunch of nonsense. Anyway, that was sophomore year.
I am curious about that.
I mean, I could talk more about that. That's like a whole thing. And then I transferred schools. Again, my parents were probably too supportive of me doing this weird learning community thing. And then they were like, you know what? Let's go to this cool high school over here. And then I just was like theater, directing, doing plays.
Did you transfer into a program school that was more of a performing arts type of school?
It was just a regular high school that had a great program.
Oh, that's cool.
But my parents were like, we got to get her out of this. There's like hippie, and then there's like, oh no.
Yeah, the Bhagwan Sri Rush.
Bring it back.
Yeah. And how did you, where did you end up going to college?
UCLA.
At UCLA?
Even though they were like, why do you have no credits your sophomore year? I got into UCLA for directing. I was able to get into college because of directing. They looked at my grades and were like, no, thank you. And then they looked at my directing portfolio and were like,
really?
Provisional acceptance.
That is, and you apparently got past the provisions.
Yeah. I had to get like straight A's my first year because they were like, based on your transcript, you should not be in school.
Based on your transcript, you should be living in a yurt.
But crystals. Yeah, I had an interview and a portfolio review, and he passed away, but this incredible man named Gary Gardner, who was just my champion. He fought for me to get in and was like, don't look at her transcript, look at her work. And like my whole life is due to that, him fighting for me in that moment.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Teachers make a difference.
He made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I think there's a lot of people that have the same story about him. Yeah.
Wow. Isn't it wonderful to have those people walking the earth? It's just amazing that people will I was just talking about this. They know their sphere of influence. They know their reputation and their how they can support and uplift and amplify, and they use it for good. It's amazing.
And years later, I had applied to go back to grad school. And I also got offered the job at Center Theater Group in the same year. Now this has become the Andy Braggs podcast. Yucky. But anyway, I came to him and he was like, I was like, what do I do? Should I take this job or go to grad school? And he's like, ugh, take the job. Don't come back here. He's like, don't come. He's like,
that's
go,
so funny.
Go. I was like, you're the reason I'm here. He's like, and now I'm going to be the reason to tell you to go take the job. Go.
See, so a second time.
Yeah, he did it for me twice.
That's amazing, and how wonderful. And forgive me, was Center Theater Group? Did you also work? Didn't you work in independent casting place for a while?
I did. That was after CTG. So I did 4 seasons at Center Theater Group. So that's the Amundsen, Mark Taper Forum, and Kirk Douglas theaters, and then all their, workshop things that no one sees. And then
Lisa Fields, maybe, is that right?
I did Lisa Fields, and then I just was like a gal about town.
Okay, sure.
Offices for a few years.
As a director person, did the director repository in your brain benefit a lot, a little, or kind of from being in the casting side of things? Was it like constructive? It seems like it would be constructive and helpful to be on the casting, in the casting, from the casting angle as a director, but I don't know.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's still a huge part of my brain. I learned a ton. I basically consider my whatever decade in casting as like my grad school, except I didn't go into debt. But I didn't make a ton of money, but I didn't go into debt. Nice. I consider that my grad school. It was hard. It was interesting. It was challenging. It was, I made it, a lot of really great connections and friendships. And I used the skills that I learned in casting every single day of my life, whether it's like reading a contract or not being scared to ask for what I think is right, being other people's champion, being able to have an idea and just like let it go out in the world, and I probably won't get credit for it, and that's okay. I mean, to be in casting is to absolutely like, it's being a matchmaker. It's putting two creatives in a room, having them meet and fall in love, and then just like, okay, I was never here.
I was never here. What are some?
That's an important skill, I think, as a director, is to be like, if you are directing in a way that your presence has to be felt at all times, if you're directing in a way that it can't survive without you, then that is not great.
I like that advice. What are some things that you want actors to understand? I know this is a typical casting person or ex-casting person question, but what are some things you would like actors to more obviously understand when it comes to casting?
I mean, I feel like I'm not going to say anything that everybody doesn't always say all the time. Like, we're on your side. All we want is for you to get the job. Please make yourself easy to find on the interwebs. Don't wear outfits that show your underwear. It's very distracting. All the basics.
Do you have, go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, but I feel like I should have something that's much more like deep.
No, it's not a deep process. It's you go in, you offer your take on what the thing is. You are flexible enough to take direction or redirection if it's offered, and then you go about your day. And if the project and the people behind the project see that there's a match there, then terrific. And if they don't, then go on with your life.
And there is a yuckiness to it that can feel gatekeepy, but I really try to think of it more, and everyone is different. I think there are different reasons people get into casting. And for me, it's my matchmaking instinct. It's the same instinct that makes me like not be able to stop texting you. If you text me like, do you know of a vegan ice cream spot on the East Side? Like, I will text you like 500 ideas. I just spit. Yes. I was so excited. Like, I can't stop myself from being like human Yelp. And it's the same skill set that makes me like, if I have a friend that's single and they're like on Bumble, I'm like, oh my God, please let me look at your phone. Like, I want to help. I want, and it's, the same reason on a mom's group, when someone posts like, where it's what's a good mommy and me, parent and me music class, and where I'm like, I have to tell you, I can't not. That's why I love casting. There are, I think, lots of other reasons people get into casting. Maybe some of them are gatekeepery. Maybe some of them are unrequited artistic desires. Everyone has a different reason. My reason was very much like a puzzle piecey, matchmakery, trying to solve a problem. And maybe that's that classic piece of advice, is like, when you're walking into a room, I can't remember who originally said it. I feel like Lauren Pritchard's the one who first put it this way to me, but I think she heard it from some, it's folklore of just like, hey, I heard you're looking for I hear you're trying to solve a problem. Maybe I can help solve your problem.
Yeah. Such a terrific attitude to have when you walk in the room. Do you have any, I know it's been a minute, but do you have any stories, funny, shocking, remarkable, notable, triumphant stories from casting that come to mind?
Oh, I wish I had a triumphant story. I probably do.
I'm sure you do.
Well, I know that there are, like, one of my best friends was actually one of my early bosses in my casting career, and we will still text each other if an actor that we love is like finally getting like a big role. We're just like, oh well, welcome to the party, and we've known this for a long time. Like, we'll just text each other like, oh, did you see so and so's finally getting what we know they deserve? There's like a lot of that.
Yeah.
There is an actor that recently like got his first series regular, and there was just like a lot of smug like, well, thanks HBO for
something we've been talking about for 10 years. Okay, yeah.
Those are my favorite moments, is those smug and just like championing people. Like, I just love, like, I love that feeling. That's the best part of the job, for sure, is like helping people who are awesome get work. And I do feel like also I got a chance to be on the front lines of representation and diversity and inclusion in it. And I would actually now say one of the greatest gifts that were given to me by working in casting was a comfort level in talking about diversity, inclusion, and representation for years, to a point where people are first starting to get these words in their mouth. And I've been like, oh, we've been saying out loud, do you mean you'd like to hire a Black person? Like, for like years.
Yeah.
And so I felt that was a huge gift that was given to me by that work.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of I also got to hear a lot of very horrific conversations around those subjects, but it also made me, it strengthened those muscles in a way that I don't think I could have gotten just in workshops. Like, it's just like, I was literally in those meetings where I heard those horrible things said. I have those regrets of times I didn't speak up, and I have those moments where I did, and I feel good about it. And I just got better at it, and I'm still working on it, like we all are. But I had a decade of those conversations.
Yeah, that's terrific that you had that much experience before it became kind of such a widely talked about topic. And
it's tricky with casting too, because you are, depending on who you're working with, it's like we don't get to pick who gets hired. All we can do is matchmake. All we can do is champion folks. I don't know, maybe other casting directors might get very angry for like literally everything I'm saying, but I can only talk about my experience.
The Los Altos casting community is going to come after you.
There's going to be so many letters to the town crier. I don't even know if the town crier is still published.
Oh, well, I hope so. Maybe there's an online version. There you are at UCLA in the directing program. Did you get to choose, like, was your directing program such that when you got there, you got to choose projects to work on, or were you assigned things?
No, I think both. Who knows? It's been 4,000 years, but I think it was a combination. And we were the first undergraduate directing program. So it was just a handful of us. So I think they were figuring it out. So I was in class with Yorma Taccone and Mari Heller, who are now being fancy. And
cool.
Yeah, it was like a really cool class of folks that they just let sort of run wild and do a bunch of weird projects.
That's really cool. And were you
name dropping because I thought maybe they would watch this? I don't know. Hi, Mari.
You should always name drop. Were you also were you acting at that time? Were you doing like comedy and stuff like that, or
not? I like that. I was like, nope, not at all, except every weekend at Comedy Sports. Nope, no acting at all.
Okay, joke making.
Except literally every weekend putting on sweatpants and telling the jokes on the stage.
Yeah.
But I really started doing that to help with my directing, and then it became a thing.
So let's talk about how so you had some early thing. I had a great time working on Scott Chernoff, Andy Crocker, Andy Goldblatt project Kitten versus Newborn. So this was in the early days. This was before, like, the blow up of social media and everybody putting everything online and stuff like that. This was back in the day when making sorry?
Said thank God.
Making a web-based series, but you did a whole bunch of episodes and got Adult Swim to put it on.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty great, like, kind of breakthrough moment. Was that
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah. So Adult Swim, and I believe Scott would have to fact check me on this. I believe it started through Super Deluxe, which was owned by Adult Swim.
I remember that. Yeah.
They commissioned us, or whatever you would call it in that world, to do this, and then they maybe folded in the middle of us making it. I don't know. There was some crazy thing in the timeline. Sorry, not crazy, just like unpredictable and wild. Trying not to use ableist language and also be more specific.
Thank you.
So I don't remember, but yes, it was for Adult Swim. I feel like we made approximately 9 million episodes. It went on forever. We ran in conjunction with the presidential campaign. And then it was one of the last big things we did. We wrote a bunch of stuff and pitched stuff afterwards. And I remember I called Scott. We had gotten really close on something else for Adult Swim. And it was like someone's like hand with the stamp that said green light was like hovering over the script. And then they were like, and then they got fired and they disappeared.
Oh,
what? And I called him in tears and was like, I can't do this anymore, man. Like, I don't want to, I'm so sad.
yeah. I know that feeling.
And that's when I sort of transitioned. That was around the time I started transitioning more into casting.
So Kitten versus Newborn, for anybody who doesn't know, is it was
with the very few people.
It was a web series. I think the episodes were like 5 minutes or something. They were pretty short, of tracking the campaign of two different candidates for president, and one was clearly the Republican nominee, and one was clearly the Democratic nominee. Although I don't think those words were used. I don't remember, but it was.
The baby was a born again newborn.
Right. So there was. So on screen you see literally a kitten with like a tie at a dais or whatever, like making a speech, and you see a newborn baby in a little suit. Now this is this baby now is what would be, I mean, she's tall, I know that.
She's in high school.
Yeah. But it was this amazing, like it used green screen elements in order to show that there was a kitten making a speech and a newborn making a speech, and they appeared on talk shows like Crossfire and Late Stuff with Mark Molnitsky, stuff like that. It was just amazing. It was really, really fun and kind of the antidote that was needed at the time, comedy wise, to the presidential campaign.
Little did we know.
Yeah. Oh my God. You have a story about a haunted ventriloquist situation of some sort. What is that story? I want to hear that. I know it's.
I wish I was recording this in the other room and I could bring out the dummy, but he's very far away from me right now. When I did I briefly did stand up. Like I have like one act that I have done a few times, and it's a very surreal, nonsensical stand-up set. And one of the things I do is I bring a ventriloquist dummy on stage with me and take a really, really long time setting him up, and then never address it, just leave it behind me the whole time. And then almost at the end of the set, I say something like, okay, and then I'm like, oh, were you curious? And then I just say like, oh, I mean, now I'm just telling a joke for my stand-up set, but I just point to him and I'm like, oh, we don't perform together. I just I found him in a dumpster and we made this deal and I would take him with me wherever I go and he wouldn't kill me in my sleep. Thank you very much. Good night. It's based on a true story because I found him in my parents' garage and they said they were going to get rid of him. And I said, please do not, he will kill. Like, I'm frightened. Do not throw him away because you're going to throw him away and then he's just going to be back in the garage and it's going to be horrifying. And so I had to take him with me to college and I have to take him with me to every house because I'm like, we can't try to get rid of it.
No, come on.
He's never been used as a ventriloquist dummy. I think he would be very angry.
I have just been directing improvised Twilight Zone episodes, and one of a couple of my favorite episodes involve ventriloquist dummies. So that's.
Do you need a prop?
No, but
look
I
behind
do.
You, it's there.
But I do.
Look,
I do want you to. I do want you to send me a picture so that when the episode gets posted, I can include a picture.
I would appreciate that. Actually, can you replace my headshot with just a headshot?
Well, what I can do is when I edit this, I'm gonna edit this and I will just drop in the photo. So like right now, what I'm saying is redundant because I will have already done this. I will have already put a photo of him.
Excellent.
And I hope that appeases him for a period of time.
He loves the spotlight. Apparently.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a couple of things I don't know if I can ask you about because I don't know if they are shrouded in legal secrecy.
Totally ask me, and I will. Should I say? Should we come up with a fun word if I can't talk about it? Like
pass.
That's hilarious. I was thinking of like schnozberry or something.
Oh, well, that works. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Isn't that from Willy Wonka?
Yeah, maybe that's an IP violation. I'll just say
maybe
that.
Now we owe the Wonka estate.
And plus Roald Dahl is anti-Semite. It's a whole thing. Let's just say.
Can you?
It's true.
Can you? I believe you. I don't think I scratched that surface. Have I heard that? I think I've heard that. I assume I've heard that. Can you talk about your work with Disney Imagineering?
Yes. It depends. I can talk about are you talking about Star Cruiser? Are you scared to say Star Wars? Star Wars. I did work on Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser.
Yeah. So tell me about that. So I feel like I'm on the outside because I'm not quite as embedded in an enough fan to have even known that this was happening.
Oh, Mike, neither was I until
somebody called you?
Until I got the call. And then
that's fantastic. Okay.
All of the movies in preparation. Yeah, I can speak a little bit to it. This will be my first time talking about it in a recorded way. So let's see how this goes. So I was hired, my technical job title was Immersive Experience Director, though many people have that title. So it kind of I prefer to talk more about it than less because that wasn't really what I did. Basically, what I will say is my area of expertise is in live interactive performance. So that's why I got hired, and so that was, I guess that's what I could confidently say what my area of expertise is in this field. In this field, typically what I am hired to do is to help create immersive performances with live actors and guests, where the guests are the scene partner, essentially, for the live performers. And it involves, in general, my work typically involves live scripted elements, unscripted elements, and sort of the mesh between. And sometimes in between lies game, sometimes that in between lies physical storytelling, sometimes it involves technology, sometimes it involves spectacle. My work tends to be on the more intimate and non-technology based storytelling. I did all sorts of things on the ship. I probably can't be super specific about, but in general, my work tends to be human to human interactive performance and storytelling. And
So
in all of my work, I like to think of it as like guest empowered storytelling.
oh, that's a great phrase. I love that phrase. Guest empowered storytelling. Is the Star Cruiser?
Is it real?
Sorry to back up. Is it a cruise ship that is a Star Wars themed interactive entertainment device?
It is not an actual ship.
Ah, okay.
It is a hotel. It is a hotel.
It's a landlocked entity.
It is, but it is the story and shape of the experience is much like a cruise with a cruise itinerary. It's based on sort of the spirit of a cruise, and the story. This is why it's totally fine that you are confused, because it's sort of the nature of it is it's the story of a cruise told over 2 days with live actors, technology, and physical space. And space, that you are taking a 2-day excursion through space and having these adventures. I think I can all safely say all of those things.
But it is, so it involves like LARP and live action role playing, every kind of immersive storytelling you can imagine is all baked into this very intense 2-day experience. And this is at Disney Orlando.
It is. I spent 5 months in Orlando.
Did you really? Wow.
5 months on the project. I don't know. Maybe I've said too much. Does Mickey Mouse watch this?
I can't tell you. I can't tell. Baby Yoda does, but.
Oh, great. Love that guy. Definitely seen all of The Mandalorian.
Did you say you haven't seen? Is that what you just said?
I've definitely seen The Mandalorian.
Oh, you. For anyone who's just listening, Andy is nodding her head and showing a checklist of all the episodes of Mandalorian that she has seen, including all of them.
This is like one of those riddles, like one door always tells the truth and one door always lies. You can only ask one question.
Mr. and Mischief is the duo, the company that you formed that creates live interactive events.
That is true.
What
Correct.
Was the award-winning Escape from Godot the first such project?
It was. And also kudos to you for pronouncing it correctly. Super kudos. There are no NDAs. I can talk about this all day long and not break into a sweat. So Mr. and Mischief, and I also will say, Mr. and Mischief happened before any of my bigger themed entertainment work. I think it's a huge part of how I got sort of transitioned from my freelance casting work into full-time directing and creating. Mr. and Mischief was a huge part of that. And we were doing extremely small scale. Like, I love that the story involves, like, we have a show with the throughput is 8 people at a time. And then I was in space for months with a show that was 2 days long for hundreds of people at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the scale of like an escape room kind of a experience, and then suddenly you're in Florida and you're in this building where, I don't know, several hundred people at a time are buying tickets.
Like 350, I think.
Yeah.
And then, in the work that I'm currently doing for Cedar Fair, which I can also talk about. That's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So it's like going from, so Jeff and I, my husband and I, dining room table, sketching, while our kid's asleep, this wackadoodle idea that we have that absolutely altered the course of both of our lives forever. And just because we thought it was hilarious, we were like, this is a ridiculous idea. And the idea was this friend of ours on a text thread with Jeff, they were joking about escape rooms. And Jeff said, someone should make a Samuel Beckett themed escape room because I would like to escape from a Samuel Beckett play. And Jeff told me about it and I was laughing. I was like, someone has to do that. That's like the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's the worst idea. We have to do it. And then I became obsessed and I was like, we're doing it. We have to figure out how to do it. We're going to do it for one day because no one's going to want to do it. It sounds like torture. And then we sold out in like 48 hours. We ran it like a million times on one day. We sold out in 48 hours. And then it just kept running. It's basically like, if it hadn't been for Omicron, we would have run it again this year. I mean, it still basically lives on.
That's fantastic. That you were like, this is an idea, and if we don't do it, who's gonna? And if we don't do it now, when is it gonna happen? And so let's just do it.
I mean, any idea that's like, this makes me laugh so hard. It's it is the worst idea. We have to do it. Who would want to do this? And I was like, but I was like, if I'm laughing so hard at this, somebody else is going to think this is hilarious.
Yeah. And then you did Builder and the Dove. I don't know about this at the Skirball.
Yeah, thanks, pandemic. We opened November of 2019.
Oh, geez.
It was a family friendly, I hate that term. It was all ages, but skewed younger, wordless interactive puzzle adventure with all the puppets in the Noah's Ark exhibit.
Oh, wow.
It was beautiful. I missed it. I miss it. Maybe it will be back someday.
And then something that you referred to as a virtual self-help parody, satire, objectivity. Tell me, what does that mean? What is that?
It is, it was a show in the style of a self-help seminar that actually accidentally ended up helping people. We were like, ha ha ha, this is so funny. And then we would get letters back that was like, that was so moving. We were like, oh, cool. We got commissioned by the Warehouse Theater in Greenville, South Carolina to create something over Zoom. And we were pretty determined to not pretend Zoom was something that wasn't Zoom. We were just sort of zoomed out at that point.
Yeah.
And actually I was super inspired by Impro doing the space disaster, not space disaster, but space drama.
Yeah, we did a serialized space show for a few months.
And I just loved the idea of like, oh, let's not take huge leaps away from our screen. Sometimes it's just too many imagination plates to spin at the same time. Sometimes I want one less plate to spin. So we were like, let's have it. What if we were doing site-specific theater, but the site was Zoom? Was the question we asked ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we created a piece of site-specific theater. The site was Zoom. And it was a decluttering seminar where all audience members brought an object from their house to see if this expert could help them declutter. And should I do spoilers? I feel like I can do spoilers.
Of course you can.
So there's a room of about 30 people and one expert who was just an absolute lovely, incredible performer named Jessica Eckenrod-Cherry, and maybe just Jessica Eckenrod. Not sure what her professional name is, but Jessie. She played a very Marie Kondo type expert. And she guided people through a bunch of Zoom exercises and interviewed people. And she slowly, very slowly, it's a very slow, patient, slow burn kind of show. There's an audience member that's a bit pushing back with her, and there's a little tension there. And it is slowly revealed. She sort of spends a little more time with him. And this, he's played by, turns out, spoilers, the very brilliant improviser Bill Larkin, who I feel like you might know, who you can't see but has a piano right under his frame. And by the end of the show, it's a full musical that he's turned all these people's personal stories into a song that he's been writing the whole time, that is about the loss that they've felt and why do you want it. It's basically like, the expert says every object in your life has something to say to you. What does it say? And so it's part of this interview. And he says, if it has something to say, why can't it stay? If this mug means something to me, it doesn't matter why. If it brings me joy, if my help, then I should be able to keep it. And so this was very moving for people. And Bill is so delightful and such a beautiful actor. And Jessica was so incredible. And it ended up people would write us with stories like, oh, my husband passed away last year and I couldn't get rid of this ashtray, but I still can't get rid of it, but now it doesn't make me sad to look at it.
Wow.
Or I've had this single earring for 4 years and I finally got rid of it and I feel amazing, or whatever it is, you know.
Oh man, that sounds great.
I feel like I'm rambling, but that's what a talk show is, right? You ask a question, then I ramble.
That's why it's called a chat show, because you chat. Tell me about 40 Watts from Nowhere that you.
Oh my gosh, Mike, you have to come see it. You're gonna love it.
It's at the La Jolla Playhouse, and
well, it was at Wow Fest.
Where it was part of the festival, right?
Yeah.
It was a critic's pick by the San Diego Union Tribune.
But I feel like it would be also a Mike Rock pick, and I really want you to come if we launch it again.
I want to see it. It's an experiential memoir.
Yeah, Jeff read this book. So we try not to do the same thing over and over again, which you can kind of hear in this, which is like, okay, the first thing was like a very ridiculous, puzzly, like, so Escape from Godot was like a puzzle room based on inescapable puzzles of existential doom. Builder and the Doves, very joyful, puppet-based exploration of themes of, joy and survival. Objectivity was about what do we hold on to when the world feels unstable. And then 40 Watts from Nowhere, Jeff just read this book he was interested in like thinking local, what are the local stories in our neighborhood in Northeast LA? And the very short version is he read this memoir. He was like, this book is awesome. I think it's our next show. I was like, she's not that much older than us, and it took place in our neighborhood. I bet we could find her.
Wow.
I went on my neighborhood Facebook moms group and was like, does anyone know Sue Carpenter? And within 5 minutes, someone was like, yeah, she's expecting your call. Here's her number. And I was like,
oh my God.
So we got in touch with the real woman that wrote this memoir, which is about her, she's just like this badass woman that hated corporate radio. So she started a pirate radio station in her bedroom, in her closet.
Oh, I've heard about her. I've heard of her.
Yeah, she accidentally became the epicenter of the Silver Lake music scene in the 90s, and it was in her closet and nobody knew who she was. We found her, we got in touch with her. She thought we were cool. We got the rights to her book and her life, and we turned it into a show where you get to be Sue Carpenter. We built her closet and you get to run a pirate radio station. It's there, and try to outrun the FCC before they get you.
That's amazing.
Very fun. And you get to play whatever you want. You play whatever music you want as long as it's in the station.
As a former radio DJ, I am very intrigued.
I feel like you would love it.
I think I would. You've got so your journey, if I can use that overused word, is inspiring because you went from this kind of like, I can direct, this precocious kid who's like, I can direct, to the most, I guess, loving form of direction, which is like that fully immersive, I think we can do this together, as opposed to here's how it has to be done because I say so. And you found a way not only just to take, a Beth Henley play and put it up on its feet, but to take an original thing, an original idea, or a semi or very adapted idea, and create a world around it where you and you make people your co-creators, and then you invite the audience in to also participate. That's just a really great journey, I think. Does your 15-year-old self approve of this? Because I think she would be pretty psyched.
Yeah, I think she'd be really, really pleased. I think, honestly, it feels like artistically and career-wise right now, it feels like I'm finally wearing shoes that fit. Like, it feels like I used to, when I won't say which of various chapter in my career, but in some jobs where I have felt that were not like really healthy environments, I have felt like, I remember walking to work one day when I was in my, I want to say like early 30s or something. I was like walking to work, and I remember thinking to myself, well, if you think that I'm too big for my britches, I should probably be wearing bigger britches. I remember, I just remember like saying that to myself as I was like grumpily walking to some job. And I just feel like I'm wearing the right size britches, but not just the right size, but like, I didn't know, I don't think traditional theater was quite right. And I don't think that the improv scene, I mean, it served me so, all of these communities served me so beautifully. I learned so much: casting, improv, traditional theater, television, network television, like all of the, huge, now I'm working in like huge corporate theme park environments at the same time as I'm working in micro theater, 5 people at a time, individual artistic performances, or one-on-one, or Zoom, or whatever. All of these things, it's finally starting to feel like I understand the kind of work that I want to be doing. And that kind of work is the work that is able to hand that storytelling power over, because I believe that the ways in which we tell stories are as important as the stories we tell. And I believe that narrative change leads to behavioral change, can lead to societal change. I really believe it. I don't necessarily believe that it can happen in any kind of storytelling medium. It can, I totally can. For me, I can't tell those stories in any kind of medium. I can only speak for myself. So it feels good.
Yeah.
But I also felt good in the beginning of 2020. So stay tuned.
I mean, the medium, is a critical thing. There's a famous quote: "The medium is the message." And we are story. I mean, what people hear in narrative form, they tend to believe for the most part. And our duty is to, amplify stories, amplify ideas, and bring about good and change and progress. And you're out there doing it. I should say that for people who don't know, that one of your, are they clients or are they partners, like Cedar Fair and
I don't know what you're about to say.
Well, Cedar Fair is they are the people behind theme parks like Knott's Berry Farm and Dorney Park and
Dorney Park, good pull.
They have a bunch of well, I remember when I was growing up, there was a Great America near where I grew up, but it wasn't at the time. I don't even know if the corporate entity Cedar Fair existed, but it was owned by Marriott, I believe, at the time. But I know that Cedar Fair has some Great America franchises and things like
California's Great America currently.
So they have a whole bunch of parks and adventures, and obviously Disney is a fairly well-known company, I think. They do a couple things. So you from starting out sitting at the kitchen table with Jeff and saying like, what would happen if there was a Beckett escape room? It must feel pretty great to have gone from like, we can tell this little tiny story with 5 people at a time or whatever it is, to the phone ringing with, here, come and help us work with 1,000 people at a time or something.
It feels amazing. It also doesn't replace the kitchen table. I think that's one of the things that Jeff and I have really made a pledge to each other, which is like, we maintain Mr. and Mischief as our artistic practice. And we have been approached to do, can you design the holiday party for this entertainment brand? Can you design an escape room for this production company? And we really have maintained like, that's not really what this is for. Individually, Jeff and I will work with all kinds of clients on all kinds of scales, but Mr. and Mischief, we really keep as our artistic practice that that balance, I think, has been incredibly gratifying, because we're able to play and experiment and do all this stuff, and then take those lessons we've learned and bring them to our work on larger scales or medium scales. Because, like, you know, a children's museum is also super gratifying, but we, you know, so we've worked with Mystery Mischief with sort of these smaller and medium scale things, but less corporate and much more about our artistic practice. And I think part of what feels good about the larger scale stuff is we've been able to maintain our artistic practice as well.
That is the best of both worlds right there.
I know, but I really don't want to jinx. Like, last time I was on a podcast and I said that things were going well, everything went very poorly after that. So it's something, I mean,
well, in a moment, you're going to go take a picture of the ventriloquist dummy. And I think that when we drop that in, everything's going to be okay.
I hope he's still there. Like, what if he left while we were having this conversation?
That would be uncomfortable. So not every kid grows up in the environment that you were lucky to grow up in, and with the DNA that you were lucky to have that made you go for it. But there are a lot of kids out there who want to be artistic, who want to tell stories, who have an inkling to play an instrument, and et cetera. I try to remember in this show to ask, what do you tell? What would you tell, or what do you tell young people, or perhaps a person who's not quote unquote young in the sort of traditional sense, but is thinking about telling stories, of being a performing artist, or being working somehow adjacent and that kind of thing? What do you have any thoughts? Do you have any encouragement?
I mean, I have big chunks. Let me think. I'm processing. Please hold while I access that
It's
information.
really the best. This song is The Girl from Ipanema, by the way.
Okay. I have a couple things. I just keep hearing this advice that Jeff actually gave me a few years ago. I was applying for a job. This is for older people that are like, oh no, it's too late. I remember I was going to apply for something, I don't know what. And it was for mid-career creative people or whatever. And I said to Jeff something, I said, like, I'm early career. And he was like, are you nuts? He was like, you have been making shows since you were 5. He's like, it all counts. Just because you weren't working in a theme park with a capital T, just because you haven't worked for, I think, you know, this is before Star Cruiser and all that stuff. He was like, just because you haven't worked at a brand name theme park doesn't necessarily mean you don't have the experience. All of that is experience. You weren't like in a fugue state. He's like, what are you talking about?
A fugue state.
He's like, what about the last, whatever, 36 years of your life? I was like, oh yeah, huh, okay. So that was one. Is like, you gotta, it's all experience, and like making sure that you're reframing that someone else doesn't get to determine what counts as experience if you can think about it and use it and process it.
Love that.
I would say, so that's for like people are, on the not as young spectrum. I have a thing to say to parents that are creatives that are struggling. I would say that the work I do is because of my kid, not in spite of my kid. That makes me want to cry. And then for littles,
make the world a place you want your kid to grow up in.
Yeah, and also because I want her to see her mom do the things she's meant to do, and I want her to see that artistic work is work, and I want her to see that the stories we tell are important, and that I can hopefully help other people tell their stories. Like, that is important to me. But anyway, I have to think of what I would say to littles. Littles, I would say, is that there are lots and 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 lots of ways to tell a story. And that whichever way is making you feel like you're getting your story out is the right way.
Terrific.
Even if it's gossip. No, maybe not if it's gossip. Not if it's gossip, I take it back. Oh, am I gonna get sued for this? Is someone
by me, you mean?
No, like people.
Maybe, yeah, maybe by Gossip Girl.
Shoot. XOXO.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
Did I do okay?
Pardon?
Did I do okay?
Did wonderfully. Let's listen to the
I should have told you this before we started recording because I really need positive reinforcement.
Listen to the people. Terrific. It has been a joy, and looking forward to 40 Watts from Nowhere coming back to Los Angeles, and or any of the other projects that are happening. And for people who are going to theme parks, look for the interactive, and you'll see
Halloween. This Halloween, if you want to. If you you get the exclusive, Mike Rock, this Halloween, if you are near Valley Fair in Minnesota, Valley Fair in Minnesota, or California's Great America in Santa Clara, California, go see Halloween. There's some fun stories happening there.
Oh, nice. I love it. Thank you for being here. It's great to catch up and great to hear all those wonderful things.
Thanks for letting me blab. Blab and brag.
It's the nature of the show. And thank you for watching and or listening. And we'll see you next time. This has been Andy Crocker, ladies and gentlemen, of Mr. and Mischief. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.